I'm going to pick up from where the last speaker left off, because I think the one thing that I would like to underline on this occasion is the urgency of the task. Because if we look at the opportunity cost that it entails, and if we, go about creating an information society in the business as usual kind of manner, I think India and Indians are going to get adversely affected on two major counts. The first count is that we're all increasingly living in a very competitive world. And what a failure to join the mainstream is going to do to millions of Indians. I mean, we have generations of young Indians who are going to come into the economic market. And if, on top of the kinds of critical challenges they already face, if on top of illiteracy and ill health and lack of skilling, they're also going to be, kept away from the rest of the global market. The kind of future that spells out for millions of Indians is something that we need to keep every moment in our minds as we go ahead. The second thing is, in terms of services. We don't often speak about this, but, Osama, you referred to it. On many, many quality of life indicators, how can it be that a country that aspires to be a world leader is behind some of the sub-Saharan African countries? On many, many major indicators in, health, children's health particularly, education,
MMR.
all of these things, India is actually below sub-Saharan Africa. So how are we going to provide the kind of services that our friend spoke about here, both education and health being two critical services? So the point is that India cannot afford to wait another 5 years, another 10 years for access. We need to do it here and now. So I just want to, make this point about the urgency.
I totally agree with you, and that cannot happen also. The first thing is to feel the urgency also. It is important. Otherwise, it will just fall on you. Dr. Rajan Kumar, how do you, would you like to use your 1 minute?
Yeah, thank you, Osama. I think let me start by saying that the future of India is digital.
Yeah.
There should be no doubt about that very basic and central idea. That digital enablement, empowerment, they hold the key to growth and development. Even though one might say that we have poverty, others should deal with on a more priority basis. But ICTs can enable that to happen in a far more efficient and far more effective way. So that's the key idea that I think one should always have in mind, that the future of development growth has to be digitally enabled. Second key point is that we must ensure that the citizens are the central focus of all this framework and this entire effort. They have to be digitally empowered to ensure that they get full benefits of what we're doing for them, with citizens in the key focus. Third point is that we must do the best that we can to ensure that governance is digitally enabled, and we provide services electronically on demand to the entire population. I think if we keep these three aspects in mind, then we would be able to see a digitally empowered, enabled India within a short time. Thank you.
Thank you. Suku, what do you say?
In the last 20 years, 18 to 20 years, the Indian economy has quadrupled in size. Right? Depending on whose measure you believe, a minimum of 120 million people have been moved out of poverty. Right? So these are huge indicators of what is happening. In the same period, if you look at teledensity, it has increased significantly. If you look at internet penetration, it's increased significantly. So I think it's happening. The issue is, what are you using it for? I think e-governance per se is a very good concept, especially in a country like India, because many of our problems have to do with the fact that we govern by exception, right? We don't govern by rules. But software is all about rules.
Yeah.
So e-governance is all about governing by rules. And I think if you can do that, especially in the transactional elements of citizens' interaction with the government, I think it's going to be a huge push forward. And I just wanted to make a mention of RTI, right? Because I think what Chad said about RTI is a very valid point, because it actually creates an enabling environment. Yeah. I've said this before, at a couple of your sessions, in fact, that the information hierarchy in India has been weakened tremendously. Previously, there used to be people who knew and then lots of people who didn't know. But thanks to RTI, thanks to mobile phones, thanks in a limited way to social media, and in a much more significant way to 24/7 TV, that hierarchy has broken now. So if something happens, people know about it, and they know about it instantly, which was not the case 10 years ago, not the case even 5-6 years ago, and that makes a huge difference. It creates the right sort of environment where people are reacting. Everyone keeps speaking about outrage that you see over various things that happen in this country. It isn't as if these things were not happening before. It's just that we didn't know about it. And if we knew about it too late. Now everyone knows about it immediately. So that's actually created an environment in which all this is happening.
Great, thanks. So opportunity cost, we have to do right now. We have to take these 3 dots. We have an era from going from exception governance to the governance for all, and information hierarchy is breaking. Laurent, you were taking a lot of notes. If you are going to cover all of it.
No, I think this is a very interesting conversation, and I think everybody is bringing points which are important. I'll make one point about data analysis that we've not maybe talked too much, but otherwise there's many issues I could feed on. You also asked me about trends. If we look at a trend, maybe I'm wrong, and I don't mind if I'm wrong. It would be good, actually. But one of the trends I see is that we have more and more information available and accessible in India. The volume is absolutely massive. I mean, a few years ago at district level, there was not so much information. Now you go on any government website, there's so much information. So it's hugely important. But one of the problematic issues I can see as a trend which is not picking up is the analysis of that data. I mean, there is analysis, of course, but there is not enough. You still see a number of line ministries having huge amounts of data for the last few years, and the analysis of the data is very poor, very poor. So, and I would say the same for a number of that's probably much less important for the country because the scale is lower, but I would say the same for a number of NGOs, actually. The analysis of the data collected can also be quite poor. And when I talk about analysis, I'm not thinking about a thesis. An analysis is also able to understand very simple problems locally and to share those problems locally, rather than trying to make a big thing. Because if you're working at, let's say, village or panchayat or block level, don't try to make a national statement here. It's actually going to create problems. So try to have an analysis which is, adapted to the scale of your intervention. I would end there. I think data analysis for is very important.
Yeah, and that also, in fact, data mining, open data is the era is coming. I mean, there is a
precisely because it's already there. Actually, I think the open data is already there. So okay. It's not just about having more data. It's already some have to analyze, and some do actually, of course. But it's and analyze as I say at different levels and in different formats because you have different publics. So
Yeah, that's one big thing that we are also seeing. NGOs sit on a huge amount of data, and those are all bottom data, the data coming from the bottom of the pyramid. But they were not available earlier. Now they are quite available. So if they are analyzed, there is a lot of picture that we are going to see about the country, which can basically going to help us in deciding what course of action we can go. Very quickly, Soumitra, can we have your one sentence before we go to the audience, and of course, a couple of more people.
Sure. Down to one sentence now?
Yeah.
From a minute? Okay.
Powerful one sentence. Yeah.
First of all, India is a hotbed of pilots and ideas. We need scale-ups. Many of the good ideas have been tried and they have been archived, but we don't see so many scale-ups, and that's why we are still sitting here and discussing. Otherwise, we would be seeing the results there. There are innovators here. They have challenges. We need to address them. Some of them require financial support. Some of them require technical support. But they need to be capacitated. And that's how the scale-up will happen. We need hundreds and hundreds of scale-ups.
Yeah, true.
Second thing is the government. I'm talking about the healthcare again. And we have to focus on that 850 million population, which is at the base of the pyramid. And for that, government has to wake up. Government has to do a lot. Government has been doing a lot, I agree. But government has to open itself up to the new technology, the new thinking, the new ideas. And that's where the healthcare can actually go through a huge change. My last point is government cannot do it alone. So government and private sector has to finally work towards the people. And so it's not that the private works for its own pocket and the public as a welfare state only thinks about the poor people. That's not true. So the government and the private has to mend all the differences that we keep talking about. We have differences in our marriages also, but at the end of the day, we work it out. So it has to be worked out so that the PPP can be popularized and made to be working efficiently, effectively, so that the bottom of the pyramid can be addressed. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, please take your mic.
I just wanted to, it's a half a sentence actually.
Yeah, please.
Profits are not bad. Right? Charity and philanthropy are not good business models. You need to have profits, but you can't have profiteering.
Yeah.
Right? So as long as you have profits, I think that's the only way it will be sustainable. So I think it's probably one of the most important points that have been made this morning.
Yeah, and Suku has been telling for the last 7 years at least that he is coming here, 6-7 years. Every time he said that profit is not bad. Sustainability comes through profitability, and he knows that we bring more non-for-profit. He stresses even more that you better be. Every year he says this sentence at least once or twice. Anyway, thank you, Ananta, Dr. Ananta, your viewpoint.
So I'll make it very short. Three, but I'll just put bullet points.
Yes, thank you.
The first one is there's been a lot of mention of a knowledge society, but I think we should be thinking of a learning society, so that what has been talked about, a lot of information, but how do you analyze? So it's about learning, and I think the IT really provides that opportunities. The second is I see it as a public good, and I think there should be some efforts to make that it does not become a private good or a club good. In a sense, it does not provide exclusivity or rivalry. It's a pure public good, and this is where the government has to play a very strong role on it. And then the third, which is the inclusiveness, because we just came out from a conference which was held in Delhi, from exclusion to empowerment, is for the difference learning. And the disabled, they use the word disabled, but I don't like that. It's more difference learning. And it seems like 1 out of every 6 person has a difference learning. It can be extreme or not. And that's a huge group that we seem to have excluded. So the notion of inclusiveness.
Thank you, Dr. Ananta. Chat?
Yeah, I think for citizens to be digitally empowered, I'd like to stress inclusiveness again. And one example I want to give is around broadband. Recently, the ITU came up with a study that said that there's a 200 million gender gap in broadband access. And I think that speaks for itself. And I do think that as we look at models of inclusivity, access, we need to look at what constraints it's creating. And I think to keep our eye on that, because it is creating new constraints and new issues for people, I think, on the ground. So I think that is very important. The other thing is about openness. We have to keep the models open, because that's the only way to encourage creativity and innovation.
Thank you. Rajneesh?
So I have just 11 words. Enough talk, get on with the work, the future won't wait.
Yeah, that's a sermon. Dave?
Very quickly, Osama, I think the potential that this country has is enormous. To bring 6 times the population of Australia out of poverty in the last 20 years just shows the sort of potential that exists here. We will not see that inflection point without the digital enablement of the 850 million at the bottom of the pyramid, whether it's giving them access to information, giving them a voice in bottoms-up government, or giving all of those here a voice to tell the rest of the world what's going on here. That is the key to making it all happen.
Thank you so much. Can we take a few questions from the audience, and we will collect the questions, and then and don't make speech, please. Just ask your question.